Okay, so this video might be a bit different than the one I normally do, but I've realized that I've had a bit of a mindset shift over the last, quite a few months, to be fair. It's something that I realized that I've learned and I've picked up through really just working on the way that I think and listening to the way that other people think and the way that other people work. And I've realized that a lot of people still think in this old way, and now I've been able to make some advancements, and I'm not going to profess that I'm the person to have been all and done it all and seen it all, but I know for a fact that if I explain this and I try to articulate on this video, it's going to help someone out there to actually realize that maybe this is the thing that they should do, maybe they want to do this, and it's actually going to help them to make a lot of money. Now, if you're not familiar with me, my name's Ben Lister. I help agency owners by documenting all of my learnings on this YouTube channel that help me to make about multi-six figures per year. So the thing that we're talking about today is the story that you tell yourself about yourself. Now, you will have beliefs around anything, right? Whether this is the type of food you like, whether this is your favorite sports team, whether this is people in your life, but you also have a belief and a relationship with yourself, how you think about yourself. I am this, I am that, whatever it may be, right? I'm the kind of person to be able to work 12 hours a day. I'm the kind of person to go to the gym 6 days a week. Whatever it is that you have about yourself, there's some kind of belief there, some kind of underlying understanding that you have about yourself. Now, this doesn't have to be correct. This doesn't have to be right. It's just the way that you think about yourself. If there's someone who is the most arrogant person in the world, but they think that they are the most, self-aware, down-to-earth person in the world, then that's what they think about themselves, and their reality is going to be changed based on those beliefs. And they're going to do things based on what their beliefs are, right? Not what is actually true. So if everyone else thinks that this person is really, really arrogant, but themselves think that they are really down-to-earth and a genuine person, then, that's really all that matters, because that's what's going to impact their actions. And so this might sound pretty woo-woo and pretty out there, and if it already does, then I apologize, but just bear with me. But if you imagine a kind of person in your life, this might be someone who's more older than you, someone who is more senior than you in a job that you're in, or something like that, where you would not want to disagree with them or not give them the kind of result or response that they would want to. So for example, if they say to you, I want you to meet this deadline, I want you to be at this place by this time, or something like that, or you've told them that you would be there, then you don't want to let them down, simply because the consequences of doing that and letting them down would be worse than you actually going and doing it. So maybe they're going to be annoyed at you, maybe they have some kind of power over you, maybe there's some kind of play there where you don't really want to disturb this person, and you have told them that you're going to do something, and so you really, really want to do it, simply because the consequences are quite high. Now, you can imagine that person as maybe, someone who is above you, or someone that's senior than you, or something like that, right? Now, if you reverse the roles and you have someone who is maybe less senior than you, maybe someone who you don't really look up to, maybe they look up to you. Now, if you say to them, I'm going to do a specific thing, and you agree to meet at a certain time, or a deadline that's in place, or something like that. If you now no longer don't hit that deadline, and you miss things or whatever it may be, the consequence of that isn't as severe, because this person doesn't have power over you. This person is not the one who's going to dictate how you feel, and so the consequence of that is very, very low. And so you have this sort of difference here, where the person who has lots of different consequences whether you let them down, and a person who has not many consequences whether you let them down. And so there's two different sides here, right? There's one person, when you say you're going to do something, you probably are going to keep your word to that person, and then there's someone when you say something you probably aren't, right? Because the consequences aren't that strong. Now, there's different reasons why this can happen, and it's not the same for everyone, but there's oftentimes a scale here, okay? And so the scale is this person who's, really tough, the consequences are really bad for letting them down, and this person here who's not very tough, maybe a bit of a pushover, and there's no consequences to let them down, and so they often get let down quite a lot, right? Now, in there somewhere is going to be someone that, for example, you don't know very well, and you're more likely, at least in my experience and what I've seen from people that I know, and even myself, you're more likely to actually do the things that you say you were going to do for someone that you don't know as well, but they have an impact on your life, than someone that you do know as well. So for example, a very, very close friend, you're probably really open with them, they probably know a lot about you, you know a lot about them. And so if you're late for something, if you say that you've been lazy, or you just haven't met this deadline, you haven't done what you said you were going to do, then they're probably more likely to understand, and you're more likely to share that with a friend than you would for someone that you don't really know, like a work colleague, and you want to make that impression, because under their eyes, they still see you as this person who is going to be, doing lots of really crazy things, and they can rely on this person, and they can be someone who is, disciplined, motivated, all this kind of stuff. But as soon as you start to break that, and you start to not do the things you say you were going to do for that person, then this image goes. So you're much more likely to do that. Now, you can imagine in there that there's a scale of people, right? So people that you don't really know, people that you do really know, and there's this allowance of, I'm going to get away with more with people that I do know. Now, you actually fit in there on the scale, and so your relationship with yourself is on the scale somewhere. And for many, many people, it's so far on the other end of the scale to the point where they are not close friends, they are not, family members, whatever it is, because it's themselves. They know them more than they know anyone else, right? And so they are going to start to get away with more and more things that they have told themselves that they are going to do. And now this is where it changes, because obviously this is personal things. This is not someone has asked me to be at a certain place and I'm going to go there. It's you telling yourself, I'm going to go to the gym 4 days a week. I'm going to work on my business for 12 hours a day for 6 days a week. Whatever it is that's a specific thing that you've told yourself in your head, maybe you've written it down or something like that, but whatever it is that you've decided, you probably haven't told someone else. And this is really why a lot of people do accountability and things like that. But oftentimes you say, I'm going to do something, you put something into the calendar, even small things, like not very, very tangible and qualitative things, like I'm going to push my prospects in a sales call. If you no longer don't do that, and obviously you're letting yourself down, but if you don't think about it in a certain type of way, you're much more likely to let that person down, which is ultimately yourself. And so you can make excuses with yourself all day long. You can say, I'm going to do things, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And then when it comes to it, you can say, oh no, I was tired. This person, let me down, and I didn't have as much time as I thought I was going to. All these different things. And there is zero consequences to this, because the person that you are, that you would be, for example, relying on, or they would be relying on you in this situation, they don't actually, there's no consequence there, because you are the consequence, if that makes sense. So if you take this back to someone, for example, like a boss in a work setting, right? If you let them down, the consequence of that is going to be that they are going to see you as unreliable. Maybe you can lose your job, and then you can lose income and stuff like that. If you say to yourself that I'm going to go to the gym 4 days a week and you don't do that, then there's no consequences there immediately, right? The consequence that you're going to face is going to be down the line. But no one is actually going to sit there and tell you, you should have gone to the gym today, and no one's going to feel like you're not going to feel like you're letting someone down. Ultimately, you don't really see yourself as a person that you can let down, or that it really matters if you do let down. And this is something that I used to think all the time, like if I make a pact with myself or an agreement, like, I'm going to start doing this, I'm going to start doing that. If I break it, it doesn't really matter, you know what I mean? Like I'm focusing on something else, or I've changed direction, or I go at my own excuses, but there's no real consequences there. But if, for example, I said to a friend, okay, we are going to go to the gym together, and we're going to meet at the gym at 7 a.m. every single weekday, and we're going to do this for the rest of the year. If I then don't turn up to the gym at 7 a.m., then there's a consequence there, right? I'm going to let someone down. There's going to be a negative consequence there. Maybe someone's going to be annoyed at me. I'm going to have to deal with that in the future. Maybe I'm going to wake up and I'm going to see a bunch of texts, and someone's going to be angry at me. All of this kind of stuff, right? And so when you're dealing with someone else and you have that agreement in there with someone else, there's so much more that goes into it when you're just dealing with yourself. And I think people tend to forget that when you make that agreement with yourself, whether this is work, whether this is relationships, whether this is fitness, whatever it may be, that agreement is still there. But this is where the kicker is, because eventually we don't have any immediate consequences from this, but the long-term consequences are going to be very, very, very strong. Much stronger than it would be pissing off a boss, annoying a friend, or whatever it may be. Because if you say to yourself, I'm going to go to the gym 4 days a week, right? And this is the program that I'm on. I'm going to weight-lift. I'm going to do whatever it is. I'm going to lose weight. And you don't start to do it. It doesn't really matter. There's no consequences there. It's just you. It's just you in your head. It doesn't really matter. You're not letting anyone down, right? It's just you, right? The only person that's going to actually be upset by that is you, and ultimately if you don't really care that much, then you're not going to be upset, right? But until one day when it's 6 months, 12 months, 10 years down the line, and you set these goals out from a very, very early age, and you said this is what I was going to do, and you never actually did it. Now, what's going to start to happen here is one of the worst things that I think could ever happen, and there's a quote, I don't know who said it, but the worst version of hell, or literal hell, is when the person you are now meets the person that you could have been. And this, of course, means that if you set those goals out and you were going to do this, but you never did, there's a person out there who is in a similar situation to you that did do that did put the hours in, that did go to the gym, that did do this, they got the girlfriend, whatever it is that you're actually focusing on and what you care about. And they were able to do it, and they had no more advantages than you did, but they just actually went out and did it. They kept them promises to themselves. And so they saw themselves as the most important person to actually keep their deals with, keep their agreements with. And so when you come into these agreements with yourself, which you probably do on a daily basis, I'm not going to eat that food, I'm going to make sure that I work a certain amount, I'm going to push those people in the sales call, whatever it may be, I'm going to be that kind of person. If you don't then keep that promise to yourself, or see yourself is the most important agreement that you can make that day, then really leaving stuff on the table, and you're really harming yourself in the long run. And so this is really just all it comes down to. And I think anything in life, whether it's business, fitness, whatever, if you can just change that relationship with yourself, you can change how you actually think about yourself, your relationship of yourself with yourself, then it's going to do absolute wonders for you. And there's many people that I know that don't really think this way, and they put almost every single person in their life in front of themselves. And I feel like they might have made an agreement to, I'm going to read more this year, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do this. But if someone comes in and puts their requests in front of that, or basically makes a request, the person is then going to put those requests in front of what their original requests were, right? So there's friends agreements now of we're going to do something, or I want to do this, or I want to do that. It's then going to go above what this person actually originally set out to do, which was something that they wanted to do for themselves, right? And I'm sure that you can think of many different examples of how this works, and things in your life that you've seen and that you've experienced. But yeah, just something that I really wanted to articulate as well as I could, even though it might not have been the most well thought out and articulated video I've ever done in my life. But yeah, I hope that someone can take some learnings from this and improve their life, their business, their fitness, whatever it may be. But yeah, I think it's a really powerful tool to sort of think about and to dwell on. But if you are looking for more clients for your agency, for your B2B business, click the first link in the description. We're not asking for anyone's email or phone number or anything like that. It's literally just a video of me explaining what my company does, how we do this, how we've done this many times before. But yeah, you don't have to click it, of course. I don't really care if you do or not. If you just want to watch these videos, that's pretty cool. But yeah, if you like the video, then like the video. Comment if you want me to cover anything specifically, and obviously subscribe if you want to watch a few more of these. But yeah, appreciate you watching this one to the end. Cheers.